Oh, there goes. Three tries for a quarter. Okay, sorry about that. It is 5:30 and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting of council by attending the meeting in person at the council chambers here at the municipal office located at 10227 Ilderton Road in Coldstream. Members of the public may also access the meeting, which is live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel, or by contacting the municipal clerk to receive a registration link to join the meeting electronically. As we do have some items with a high interest level on tonight's agenda, the overflow space next door with the live stream has been set up in the community hall. We'll be addressing the Melrose Drinking Water System Interconnect project first, and then the public meeting for planning matters, including Bridle Path, the ARVA application after that. So we ask that if your item appears later on the agenda, that you consider moving to the overflow area so that all of the people who are standing at the back can have a seat and be accommodated in the chambers. We will be sure to take a break between items and make sure that all interested parties are able to make their way back into the chamber before their item is addressed. The municipality of Middlesex Centre recognizes that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenape peoples. Pardon me. We acknowledge the enduring presence of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people on this land and are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Our neighboring First Nations communities, which continue to live as sovereign nations, include the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. There are no additional items for the agenda this evening, and so I will now look to members of council. Are there any matters that require a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor Coles?
I have a disclosure. I have a conflict of interest with the next one coming up, the Melrose water.
Okay, thank you. With respect to that, then, you're going to go? Yes. Okay, so I'll just read a preamble here. Representatives of groups that have registered to speak on this matter will be given 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on this matter. Individuals that have registered to speak on the individuals, solo people, that is, will have 5 minutes to provide their comments, and then we will proceed through the registered delegates in the order that they appear on our agenda. In keeping with the procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind that all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. Okay, so the first person that has registered to speak is Mr. Jared Seifman. He will be speaking on behalf of 5 or more individuals also present here tonight, and he will be allotted 10 minutes to address council. If you'd like to come forward, and then you have to press the mic button. That would be the biggest one in the middle. And then the thing will go green. I don't control that one, do I? Yeah. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. I was pushing the wrong one. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn mine up.
All set? Okay. Thank you. I want to start my comments this evening by thanking our neighbors for their dedication to this issue, their commitment to show up, stand together, and be active citizens of our community, standing up for what we know is right. I also want to thank the mayor and members of council for the opportunity to speak tonight and for making this item the first on the agenda. I also want to thank the many on council and staff who came out to the community meeting on this matter. It's not something you all had to do, and we very much appreciate your attention to it. If I can summarize the impact of this potential decision, it would be starting with surprise, frustration, disappointment, and worry. And I'm going to make my remarks in that order. As a newer resident in this community since 3 years ago, I was quite shocked to learn of this project by happening to see in a tweet by the municipality a highlight of council activity, including the Melrose Water Interconnect project. This was a major change to our neighborhood in the area, and no information was shared with us prior to a decision being made or considered by council on this matter. I immediately got in touch with our councillor, Wayne Shipley, who I very much appreciated getting back to me, letting me know a sign would be put up to share information about this project. It would take about a year, and when the switchover took place to a new system, notices would be provided. I was also very happy reading the staff report and recommendation, which was approved by council unanimously, which stated the council approved budget for 2025 included 2.62 million for the construction fees and 400,000 for the contract administration for the Lake Huron primary water supply project. This extended into 2026, and a portion of the project was identified in the 5-year capital forecast. Because the low tender did go over a little budget by about 100,000, this will be taken into account into that portion. And since the project spanned 2 years, there is no requirement to amend the 2025 capital budget, and the adjustment can be made to the 2026 proposed capital budget should this project be approved, which it was. As indicated into the 2025 capital budget, this project will be fully funded from the Water Reserve Fund. This project began, and while there were certainly disruptions which have been challenging, our entire neighborhood appreciated the work of the municipality to make these improvements, which would benefit our neighborhood. Moreover, the municipality as a whole, which was stated by staff as a way to integrate the municipal infrastructure assets, reducing operating costs, improving water quality and quantity in cases of fires, and mitigating regulatory impacts and future ongoing costs. Our shock, though, was reignited tenfold when residents were mailed letters letting us know that council is now considering charging a fee to all of us in the neighborhood for this project after the fact. While local improvement fees or charges are something within the right of the municipality to do, it is typically an option considered at the outset of the project, not something done after the fact. If at any point local user fees were identified and residents consulted on this, there would have been any number of alternatives suggested to help lower the cost of the project or not wanting to proceed with the project at all. In the January report to council, this matter from staff outlined that the cost to upgrade the existing facility as is would be in the range of $1.5 million, substantially less than what has been done to upgrade the facility. Council and staff approved the 2025 budget, knowing all that was required and with full confidence, approved this specific project to be funded from the council-approved budget without concern. At that time, there was no issue with the Water Capital Reserve Fund identified, but then just 6 months later, there was found to be considerable strain on the reserve fund affecting the ability to fund other critical water capital projects. Frustration. The project has been on the books since 2010. The costs already identified beginning in 2015, and in the 15-year history of the project, not once were local user fees identified as a funding source for this project. Not only that, but if this project had been initiated sooner, as identified by staff, the cost of the project would have been substantially less if costs have gone up tremendously, at least within the last 5 years, and not longer, as identified by staff since 2017. If during the budget process this had been identified and alternative funding sources were discussed, or the project was needed to be pushed off to ensure appropriate levels of funding, then this could certainly be understood. But that wasn't the case. And so to the utter anger and frustration of our neighborhood, we find council and staff now realizing challenges with the budget and looking to one neighborhood to help offset the overall cost for the entire municipality, with one neighborhood making up 0.01% of the population of Middlesex Center being on the hook for it. Our anger was further fueled by the fact that it wasn't even the project itself that had gone over budget, but the overall water capital project's budget. The report going to council made us even more frustrated for a number of reasons. The report does not consider any other option, again, than our neighborhood paying to help offset the cost of the project. At the public open house, several alternatives were proposed by members of our community, such as adding a portion of the cost to the water rate, or deferring the project for some time, or deferring timelines for other capital projects. It was noted at the public open house that no other options had been previously considered or presented to council. Staff undertook to look at those alternatives and to cost them out, promising to include alternatives in the final report to council. No other options have been presented, with the only other options being either we pay or we don't pay. Further, no alternatives like shifting timelines on other water projects were considered for this. We would urge council to ask why they've been presented with a problem strain on the overall water reserve fund months after the approval of this project and the budget, with only one proposed solution, without any other alternatives. Residents were also asked to complete questionnaires at the public open house and were told that the questionnaires would be provided to council for their consideration and discussion this evening. There is no mention of the questionnaires in the report and no copy of them in the report. Many residents took the time and effort to provide and detail their thoughts in these questionnaires, and unfortunately, these are not in front of you today. So I would certainly encourage and ask in your deliberations on this matter to ask how many questionnaires were received, what was the feedback, and what suggestions were made for other methods of funding this project. The report also states that the proposal aligns with the strategic plan, Objective 5.3 of responsive government by sharing information and gathering input, continuing our timely and effective communications to the public, and sustainable infrastructure and service Objective 4.3 by communicating our approach to funding capital projects and communicating clearly with the public on capital spending priorities in terms of costs, benefits, funding sources, and timing. And to be honest, reading this was incredibly disappointing. Given what we have shared and what you have seen so far, I ask you all, do any of you really think that that's actually what took place? Sadly, to all of us, it has felt like the opposite. Disappointment. The shock and anger over time has now turned to disappointment. From what has been shared with us, again, there was no issue with the project, but the overall water capital works budget being over budget. And again, looking to us, 0.01% of the population instead of the whole of Middlesex to tackle this. We trust you to make decisions on our behalf with full transparency. This entire process was put on us so hastily with no other option to be considered because this has all been considered after the fact and without a chance for discussion and options. And this has really broken trust for a lot of us. How are we supposed to feel that we can rely on you when the municipality is taking zero accountability for this? The budget was approved and it wasn't sufficient to meet all the needs. Yes, you have the ability to charge a local improvement fee as an option, but this is not the way to do it, as Sylvia, our next speaker, will discuss. And it sets a terrible precedent for every resident in our community, knowing that if the municipality finds itself in a financial bind, they can turn to one neighborhood after the fact to be able to recoup those monies. Even in the staff report in front of you today, it's sad to see us essentially being pitted against every other resident in this community, showing how much of their taxes they would have to pay to offset this project when that was never shared from the outset and would never be done for any other local improvement work, simply like a road being replaced if that was to have to be undertaken. And to be honest, the minimal difference in cost to every resident, the majority of which have already been paid, if they were to pay $0 or $10,000, could be offset in various alternative ways. Finally, with worry, I'm going to end my remarks tonight that we are left with a neighborhood. How are people going to figure this cost out when this was never something they had to contemplate before? Times are never easy to have such a substantial cost placed on your shoulders out of nowhere, but especially now when the economy is in poor shape, jobs are precarious, and people don't know what tomorrow will bring. We have residents in our community who have lived there for decades, are retired, and are living on fixed incomes. This is when communities should be there to support each other and not put the burden on the shoulders of very few. As even identified in the staff report, again, costs have gone up significantly since 2017 when this was initially contemplated. You have presented debenture options, which certainly help offset the one-time impact of a cost like this, but it means annual costs go up for every resident in the neighborhood with interest, and if someone is to try to sell their house and move in the next decade, it means that new owner now has an outsized tax bill, making the ability to sell and move precarious if someone was so desired to. During difficult times, this is incredibly scary, and we need you to understand this because the decision you will make will have an outsized impact on very, very few. In closing, I urge council when considering this motion before you to consider the broader implications of approving such a change under the circumstances. The decision to proceed with connecting Melrose's water supply was made without notice or consultation. The project was approved as fully funded through the Water Reserve Fund, and then only months later, council was asked to impose a fee on residents without any other alternatives being considered. While perhaps under different circumstances with proper notice, such a fee could be appropriate, but to approve under the circumstances will undermine public trust and violate principles of integrity, transparency, and fairness. I want to recognize tonight I have the privilege of speaking on behalf of many residents in our neighborhood, and so appreciate the extended time allotted to me for this important matter. For all the points I mentioned today, I highly urge you to vote for option 1 to impose no fee, and would also suggest that you add a secondary piece to that motion to have an option to have staff revisit the overall water capital budget and look at alternative ways to offset the budget challenges which have now been identified in the budget, which could be prudent to see if any other projects can be delayed to help achieve those cost savings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the agenda, we have Sylvia Leclerc, who's registered to speak on the matter and will be speaking for 5 minutes.
Okay,
There you go, you're green to go.
thanks. Hello, my name is Sylvia Leclerc. I'm a resident at Winfield Lane, and I've lived there for over 20 years. I'm here to speak to the Melrose Drinking Water System Interconnect Project. At the most recent town hall meeting, Rob Cascaden, Director of Public Works and Engineering, used the Elmhurst Parkland project as a comparable project to ours. Although we agreed that the projects are in fact different, both involve a proposed fee. I have provided a timeline comparison of both projects to council. I think you have this in front of you. Yes. Do you have this in front of you?
I don't think so.
It was sent via email earlier today. Yeah.
Okay, if you don't have it in front of you, I'll go through it. Maybe just give me a little bit more time to do so. Essentially, this is a timeline comparison of both projects, which illustrate a huge discrepancy in the process fairness when it came to timely and effective communication when comparing the Melrose project to that of the Elmhurst Parkland. Looking at the two timelines, and I'll go through it in a little bit, clearly the project of Elmhurst Parkland followed a transparent process. Residents had the opportunity to consult, participate, and provide feedback in the process from the onset 8 months prior to the start of construction. This Melrose project has been completely lacking in transparency. The budget for the Melrose project was approved publicly by council. Despite this, and after the fact, some staff members have now made a recommendation which runs counter to council's prior approval, more than 8 months after the approval and 5 months after the start of the construction. So for those of you that don't have in front of you, here is the timeline. The top of the timeline, the top timeline is the Elmhurst Parkland project. December 2024, there was a notice of public meeting for those residents. The highlighted pink is January of 2025, when those residents were told about the proposed fee. Again, in April, there was further consultations with those residents to discuss the fees. June, additional project fee breakdown meeting was made available, provided to residents. And finally, in July 2025, construction began. So if you follow the timeline in the green, you'll see that it's they were informed of the fee 7 months before construction began and 8 months from notice of construction. Okay. The bottom timeline is the Melrose construction project. January 2025, there was a notice to residents. That notice had no fee referenced. In fact, there was a statement that all funds would come from existing capital funds. March 17th of 2025, there was a notice of construction, and March 24th, a few days later, the construction began. There was no communication until August of 2025, which is the pink highlighted. This is when my neighbors and myself were notified of the proposed fee. So as you can see, working backwards, we were informed 5 months after the construction began of this proposed fee, and we were informed a total of 8 months after the approval of this project. So staff's, yeah, just to show that, staff's process in arriving at this recommendation was done behind closed doors and without visibility and transparency for Melrose residents. Even worse, it appears that this recommendation is being made for Melrose residents to make a separate and significant contribution to future unspecified water projects. The question in the Elmhurst Parkland project was, should the specific group of residents pay for that specific project? That is not the question before council tonight. The question before council tonight is, should a significant fee be imposed on Melrose residents to fund future unspecified water projects? Those are two very different questions, and those are two very different outcomes. This is why the vote to this proposal should be no.
Okay, thank you. Well done. Okay. The next speaker is Trevor Poole, and he is going to be allotted 5 minutes as well. The middle button there. There you go, green to.
Good,
Yep.
thank you very much. So thank you for allowing me the time to speak to you about council proposal imposing a fee on the Municipal Act 2001 for the Melrose Drinking Water Interconnection Project Report CPS 33-2025. I attended a town hall meeting that was hosted on September 4th, 2025. There I learned the following: that council has been aware of this project since around 2010. Over the past decade, council has been committed to funding this project in full. In 2025, council decided to move forward with the project and committed to the following: funding the project in full and analyzing the impacts to the Water Capital Reserve Fund and accepting those impacts and implications for over the next 30 years. Council was aware of new environmental equipment that was required for this project and committed to funding to that new equipment. The proposal to council was a recommendation from one staff member of the municipality. The proposed fee of potentially $10,000 was an arbitrary number chosen. There has been no known cost overruns that was provided at the town hall that would suggest the need for additional funds to complete this project. The legality to charge any additional levies was based on the Municipal Act. I would like to speak to two processes that need to be considered based on this information. The first is due process. So due process of law is the legal principle that the government must respect all legal rights owed to a person and ensures that legal proceedings are fair and that individuals are not deprived of life, liberty, or property without a fair process and a reasonable opportunity to be heard. This concept is rooted in the historic principle of the law of the land, ensuring the government does not act unfairly or arbitrarily against individuals. So some key aspects of due process, the first one is fairness. The core of due process is the idea that fundamental fairness preventing the government from acting arbitrarily or capriciously against individuals. Procedural due process is this focuses on the processes the government must follow, ensuring adequate notice before a deprivation or an opportunity to be heard or defends one's rights, and protection from government power. Due process acts as a balance between the power of the government and the rights of the individual, protecting people from government overreach. The second I'd like to talk about is a decision-making tool to assist council for making an arbitrary decision. One such tool is an NRA model used during major or critical incident command decision-making. NRA stands for necessary, risk-effective, and authorities. I'm going to first talk about necessary. This requires council to answer 3 questions, and council needs to consider whether this current proposal is necessary based on the information that was provided to the public during the town hall meeting. First question council should ask themselves is why now? Council has been aware of this proposal for long over a decade and has been saving funds to cover this project. Council approved the project in full in January of this year, accepting inflation costs and all other costs that has inflated this project to over $4 million. Council was aware of the long-term impact to the Water Capital Reserve Fund and accepted those impacts. Council was aware and approved upgraded ministry required additional equipment to the pump house. Council should be aware that the cost of the residents affected by this property or by this project is arbitrary. We have to ask ourselves a second question. What's changed? Nothing brought forward to the citizens on September 4 would suggest that more funds are needed. This proposal was based on an assessment by a staff member working for the municipality. Was this proposal based on some bias of the staff member or their people that work with them? No information was provided to the town hall meeting in the contrary. The third question we should ask is why this way? This is an easy way for council to boost revenue of over $600,000 or roughly 16% of the budget cost of the project. Since the actual project has already been approved and funded, where is it necessary for these funds to go? As a result of the answer to the proposal, considering is it necessary, that answer should be no. The second aspect we need to look at is this risk effective. In order to generate other funds, it is an easy way for council to find another revenue stream by imposing the levy. As this proposal was put forward after the project commenced and after the approval of the budget for this project, this proposal lacks transparency that is deserved in a democratic society. Therefore, at this time, I do not believe that it is risk effective. And finally, we have to look at three different authorities, and council needs to decide if the proposal is legal, civil, and morally correct. When we talk about legality, legally, this council has the right to impose fees under the Municipal Act. However, is this process lacking due process that is required in law? I would suggest that, as mentioned above, we're informed that it was arbitrary, and lacks due process. Just because it's lawful, are we going to make it awful? So civilly, once again, if a civil process, does this proposal pass the challenge of due process? As well, how does this relate to civility? Currently, this proposal feels like it is based on a bias. No real answers have ever been cited as to why, after a project was approved, then later a fee is being applied. There's no decision-making tool or formula cited as to the costs that could be imposed, just bias based on a few members of the municipality. And morality. How does this make you look, or not only to your community, but also to our own families? How would it make you feel if this process was applied upon you? How would your family and friends feel about this decision-making process of this levy? The lack of due process, the lack that it is arbitrary, and the lack of transparency of this process. How would residents feel about a levy being imposed upon them at any given time? By using this decision-making tool, I suggest that the proposal should be voted down. In its place, council should learn from proposals. For future projects, a new procedure should be in place. This would take time and effort before being implemented and would be based on future projects that impact a small portion of the community. This proposal requires city staff to develop a tool and decision-making process when implementing. The tool needs to take into account the total cost of the project, future impacts of the project, who is being benefited from the project, has other sources of government funded being considered, any other financial restraints that the project could bring. A decision-making tool similar to the one I used above could be considered if additional levies are going to be imposed on a small citizen group. This tool needs to take into account ratepayers need to be fully informed prior to the approval of any project that could result in additional levies. A fair assessment tool would determine criteria on when this tool would be implemented into a project to remove perceived biases, and a tool should be included to determine percentage based of the total cost of the project, eliminating perceived biases.
We're a minute over.
Okay, one small point.
Yeah.
The budget of this project needs to be included in a line item showing that 100% of the potential funds included are being used to fund the project, eliminating the potential of ratepayer wondering if their funds are even applied to the project. Thank you for your time. Sorry for being over.
Okay, thank you, sir. 5.4, Lisa Higgins has prepared oh, you're going to speak to Lisa? Yes? Okay. Yeah. This is a time limit I should note? 5 minutes. Okay, sorry. 5 minutes again, the clerk says. Thank you. Good. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lisa Higgins, and I've lived on Winfield Lane for 17 years. I'm here this evening to formally present a petition signed by members of our community regarding the Melrose Drinking Water Interconnect project. This petition addresses a recommendation that has caused deep concern: the proposal to impose a fee on Winfield residents. As stated in the petition that you all have in your package, at no point did our neighborhood request to be connected to the regional water pipeline. We were not engaged in the decision-making process, and we were clearly told that the project would be funded through the Water Capital Reserve Fund, as approved by this council on January 29th. Any discussion about a fee to our residents should have been considered prior or on notice to us when the project was approved. The project was approved as fully funded through the Water Capital Reserve Fund. We feel there is no justification for revisiting that approval. Shifting any portion of this financial burden onto Winfield homeowners is both unfair and procedurally improper. It disregards the original funding commitment, it undermines confidence in how public funds are managed, and erodes trust that your residents place on you as council to make transparent and consistent decisions. We also firmly reject the idea that Winfield is the sole benefiter of this project. The Melrose Interconnect strengthens the entire Middlesex Center water system. It improves integration, enhances system-wide water storage, and reduces operational costs for all serviced communities. These are shared municipal benefits. This is not a localized improvement. Placing this financial burden on Winfield residents is not only inequitable, it sets a troubling precedent for how infrastructure costs could be shifted onto individual neighborhoods in the future. Furthermore, even a partial fee would impose a serious financial strain on our families, particularly during a time of economic uncertainty. For some, even a few $1,000s over time is unaffordable. It also risks negatively impacting property values and the financial well-being of our community. This is not about resisting infrastructure investment. We are asking for accountability, fairness, and for council to uphold its original commitment to fully fund the project through the Water Capital Reserve Fund. I am submitting a petition signed by 87 residents in Melrose. This includes residents of Middlesex County beyond the impacted Winfield residents who also believe this approach taken is wrong. It's important to note that this number underrepresents the true level of support. Several residents in our neighborhood were unable to sign due to privacy concerns or technical difficulties with the electronic petition format, but shared their concerns with you. The message is clear. Our community does not support this funding change. The lack of support for this funding change has been made clear by our residents at every opportunity. One, by the 60 residents that attended the public open house on September 4th, and the report states, feedback reflected widespread concern and a lack of support for the proposed fee among affected residents. Two, by the more than 20 thoughtful letters included in the staff report who voiced their disagreement with the proposed change for a vast array of reasons. Many of the letters also note personal circumstances which will result in real hardship if the proposed fee is imposed. Third, at the open house, our residents also completed, as you heard, questionnaires to provide feedback on the proposed fee. There is no mention of these questionnaires in the staff report, but we understand that staff, at our urging, updated your package with these feedback forms, I believe, yes, and will be briefing you on the feedback received as part of their report this evening. In that, you will have seen that overwhelmingly, all 33 feedback forms stated that there is no support for the proposed funding change. On behalf of our neighborhood, I respectfully urge the council to hear our unanimous feedback and reject any option that imposes direct fees on Winfield residents and to maintain the integrity of the original funding approach as previously approved by council. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And at this point, I want to acknowledge that there has been receipt of correspondence, and there's the call for a motion. The motion that we have before us, if anybody has comments, we should, okay, go ahead, Councillor Stark.
Okay, so we're going to go into item 6.1, Your Worship. Is that what you want a motion?
Well, actually, I'd like to have a motion that we receive this for information
Okay.
and then we can move into it.
All right.
Yeah,
now-
okay, I thought you had another question. Yeah, so the process, we still have the report from staff, and then we'll ask the questions, and then we'll have the motions to make a decision.
You're receiving all
Yeah, all of this information that everyone has presented, written in, okay? Okay, but I haven't read it yet now. I just thought you had a quick question. Okay, so that the motion before us is that the delegations, the petition, and public correspondence regarding the Melrose Drinking Water System Interconnect Project be received for information. I have Councillor Burrs, and I saw your hand, Councillor Cates. Yep, okay, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, now we're going to have item 6, which is the project staff report entitled Imposing a Fee for Melrose Drinking Water System Interconnect Project. We have Rob Cascade, Director of Public Works and Engineering, and Tiff. Okay, so this is the staff report part. So before it's, or the motion?
Yeah. we just
Oh,
need
start
to
back again.
Repeat the motion.
Okay, so the motion that was just voted on is that the delegations petition public correspondence regarding Melrose Drinking Water System Interconnect Project be received for information. And I had Councillor Burrs moving it and Councillor Cates seconding it. The vote was taken and it was carried. So at this point, we now move to the staff report, which is report CPS 53/2025, and that's the one that's going to be presented by staff with respect to imposing a fee on the drinking water system interconnect project. Rob Cascadden, the Director of Public Works and Engineering, and Tiffany Farrell, the Director of Corporate Services, are the two that are going to be speaking to the report. I'm not sure who's going to go first, but the floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, I will go first and then I will hand it over to Tiffany Farrell, the Director of Corporate Services. The report is fairly lengthy and you've heard plenty of comments from the residents both here and through the public meeting. So I'm going to keep the kind of summary of the report fairly short and open it up to questions from council. So I'm just going to give you a bit of background. So the Melrose Water Treatment Plant was constructed in 1990 and services the 65 properties on Winfield within the village of Melrose. The raw water supply does come from groundwater, and it does have elevated sodium and iron levels. The iron is largely removed through filtration. The project for the interconnect to the regional water supply was first introduced in 2010 through the Master Servicing Plan. And then a follow-up study, Schedule B, Municipal Class EA, was undertaken and completed in 2017. And that's where the first cost estimate at a very high level was produced. And it identified the long-term solution as being the interconnection between the existing pump station or the regional and the regional water supply. So in 2022, council approved a consultant award for the design for the preliminary and detailed design engineering to Stantec. And through that process over the next 2 years, essentially there was updated cost estimates that were produced by the consultant as the engineering progressed. The adjustments were made in the capital budget every year, updating that as both the cost increase and the level of detail in the engineering progressed. In December of 2024, the tender was closed for the award of the construction contract. That came to council in January 29th of 2025, awarding the construction contract to Burnham Excavating, who was the low bidder on the project, as well as to Stantec for the contract administration and site inspection. Construction has started this year and is expected to wrap up later in 2026. The first phase, as far as the installation of the horizontal installation connecting the regional water supply to the site is complete, and the work within the facility will be progressing into 2026. So I'd just like to point out that although the costs have increased over time, the first real fixed cost was at the time of the award of the tender. Everything up to that point were estimates that were modified as more information was produced and as the engineers provided updated costing based on the market. And like it has been mentioned before, it was mentioned at the public meeting, and was mentioned by one of the presenters that costs have increased over time. One of the reasons that this was not completed, like say, immediately following the municipal class EA, was that the intent is always to try to extend the life of a capital asset. Of course, but by doing so, when you go to replace a capital asset, chances are costs have gone up. But we typically would not replace a capital asset before its end of life unless there is a reason to do so, like in conjunction with a larger project. So at this point, the overall budget or the overall cost of the project, including the construction costs, engineering fees to date and projected, brings the total cost of the project in at approximately $4.1 million. Just before I hand it over to Tiffany, so I point out, so the comment forms that were received at the public meeting, there was 20 that were received after the meeting and 20 that were received at the meeting and 13 were provided after. And I will say that I've gone through the forms, and to nobody's surprise, all 33 forms identified their wish to pay $0 for a fee. And there was a very largely varying amount of information provided. Some provided very little commentary back, it was checking the boxes. Some provided significant feedback as to the reasons why they felt it was unfair, that a fee would be imposed at all or at this time. I think at this point, I will turn it over to Tiffany, and then happy to answer any questions you have after.
Thank you, and through Mayor DeVete. I don't have too much to add to the report in front of you. The fee was presented as an option for council's consideration, and it would result in less impact to the Water Capital Reserve Fund that is funded from contributions from all ratepayers. Any funding received from the Melrose residents with respect to an up to 10,000 fee per property would be used directly on this project. This is an option under the Municipal Act, Section 391. Which allows the municipality to pass a bylaw to impose a fee for capital costs. This is a service the residents are already getting, but it is considered a service enhancement that is outlined in the report. At this time, I'll leave it to council if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report. I'll look to members of council. Comments, questions? I saw your hand before, Councillor. Go ahead.
Okay. So at this stage, my question through you, your worship, to Rob is, I agree that this is a good project. You don't want to be on well water. The whole system has to be upgraded anyway. You don't want to throw what I call bad money. This is the right way to go. It's the way it was communicated was a problem, and I'm not going to criticize staff or council. I just think we need to do a better job going forward. So you'll see how I vote when the vote comes up. But I just wanted to comment on that situation. I think you would agree it's an appropriate project.
Thank you. Other comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've listened to a lot of comments tonight. And no decision has been made yet. It seems people have predetermined which way we're going to vote, which isn't the case. I would just like to thank our staff for giving us options. That's important in our decision-making process, that we have options, different ways we can go, and it's up to council to decide which is the best way to go. So I do thank staff for that. Obviously, the major problem, and I think that can be corrected going forward, is if we say there's not going to be a cost, then there's not going to be a cost. But if we say right from the get-go, in any future ones, that for this to happen, residents are going to be asked to pay so much right up front, then I think we're on solid ground that way. So, but I just want people to realize that no decision has been made. We haven't decided 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, no 1,000. We simply have a report from our staff, which we're looking at, and we will decide which way we want to go with that report. So I think to criticize staff is not correct. I think they've done their job very well, and they give us the options that we need to make the decision.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to echo what Deputy Mayor said, I guess what I'm feeling here is back in 2017, when this whole process started, that's when we should have made it, or whoever staff was, or people, or staff or council, should have had a meeting with the people in Melrose and said, here's the options. There may be a possibility you'll have to pay a fee. Whether, you know, you liked it then or not, but at least you had a heads up on the whole thing and could possibly budget if you need to budget the money for 2026. I try and put myself in your shoes or in everybody's shoes when I come into a situation like this. And I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be happy either if I had to fork out $10,000 for a fee that's been told to me up to January 29th of 25. it was going to be fully funded by our water reserve fund. Hence the reason I think we call it a reserve fund. That's why it's there. We need to use it. I also want to thank everybody for coming tonight. And the presenters, thank you for being very respectful to council and staff. That's greatly appreciated at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shipley. Councillor Cates, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank everybody. I definitely want to thank staff, and I want to thank you all for your comments. Just to Sylvia, your email, your attachment wouldn't open. We were sent it, and read all of the things. And again, thank you for being respectful. I think that my biggest thing is about being for the greater good. We're in this together as Middlesex Center residents. And so I think that many examples could be given of, you know, earlier we talked about I got a new sidewalk I didn't want in front of my house, and thankfully I didn't have to pay it, although I'm very happy everybody uses it. And so I think there's lots of things that you can say about things that happen that you want or don't want, but it's all comes out of the general pool. I forgot what a deputy mayor said, something that I was going to agree with as well. But anyways, those are my comments, and thank you to everybody for coming.
I have go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor, most of council's already stated what I would have stated. I think too that if you would have known from the the beginning that there might be a cost, I think it's a little late to add it now. But for the presenters and the people that send the petitions, appreciate it. But I have a job too. So stuff that shows up on Wednesday, I don't look at it because I've spent a lot of time already. Like maybe in the future, if you could, I know it was a long weekend because I killed my long weekend reading council agenda for today. So Wednesdays, I may or may not look at my emails because by then my brain is so fried. I'm not looking at my computer anymore. So like in the future, like I said, the sooner you can get them in, I know it's a rush job, but it would be greatly appreciated. And I'm not the best person in the world with emails. I'll go a day without looking at them because I can. So thank you.
I'll just make one quick comment. I don't think I could add anything. I think your comments were thoughtful and heartfelt, and I think you articulated them well. And thank you for taking time to have those conversations, to think things through, and to put it to paper and to attend. There's nothing worse than an empty room when we're trying to figure out things for the community. And I think it's educational for everybody too, because sometimes there are assumptions about how we do things, but when you come and you see it or you hear it, you go away with another perspective or some questions that you want answered and that kind of thing. So thank you to all of you. And thank you to council. Your comments are on point and thoughtful and well prepared too. I do want to add my comments that I too thank staff. We in this community are blessed with wonderful people in this office. They work really hard and they hold our hands when we need to ask the questions and get answers too, because when you start sitting here, you have to learn about the act and this act and that act, and then there's the rule book and another rule book. These people are experts in what they do, and they work really hard to make us as informed as we can be. So I see that Councillor Shipley has his button pushed. If you'd like to go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there's no other councillors that want to make comments, anybody? Then that's the case. I'd like to make a motion, please. And I'd refer to motion number 1, not imposing any fee.
Okay, do I have a seconder, Councillor Cates? Okay, in that case, I'll call the vote. The motion before us is that the report number CPS 53, 2025 regarding imposing a fee under the Municipal Act 2001 for the Melrose Water Project be received, and that the council direct staff to proceed with option 1 within the reporting CPS 53, 2025, being that no fee be imposed under section 39(1), subsection 1 of the Municipal Act for the Melrose residents in relation to the Melrose Drinking Water Interconnect Project. I'll call the vote then. All in favor and opposed? That is carried. Okay, so we're just going to take a 5-minute break here, or 5-ish, so that we can rotate people in and out. I feel the love. So we're going to move into public meetings. And the motion before us is that council move into public meetings at 6:29 PM pursuant to the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended to consider applications that are listed on the October 1st, 2025 agenda. If I could have a mover, please, and a seconder. Councillor Coles and Councillor Cates, thank you. We'll call a vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, I have a bit of a preamble. Members of the public who wish to receive further notification on any of the applications being considered today, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have any questions on the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Representatives of groups that have registered to provide comments on the application will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council. Individuals that have registered to speak on a matter will be given 5 minutes to provide their comments. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. There is an order of proceedings, and that is as follows. It'll be for each, the same for each of the public meetings this evening. First of all, the chair, that is myself, will ask the planner to present and explain the purpose of the application and present the staff report. Second, the applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to their application. Then number 3, the public who have registered will be asked for their comments. Then members of the public who are present and wish to delegate will be called on for additional comments. Then council may ask questions of the applicant, delegates, and/or staff. And finally, the chair, that is myself, will consider the motions regarding the applications. So the first item up this evening is file PLA 61-2025, Bridle Path Subdivision in Arva. Marion Cabral is the county planner in attendance to provide an overview of the staff report. We'll start there. So where's Marion? There you are. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to the rest of council. Again, the purpose of this report is to provide council and public with information regarding a new plan of subdivision application, an official plan amendment application, and zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands in the settlement area of Arva located west of Richmond Street and on the north and south side of Medway Road. The lands are generally bound by Medway Creek along the north and west and Sunningdale Golf Club and existing residential development immediately to the south. The lands subject to the applications consist of 3 properties in total that are currently designated residential and zoned mixture of existing use, restricted agriculture, and urban residential first density. And combined, they have a total area of approximately 50 acres. So the purpose of the plan of subdivision application will create 16 development blocks with the potential to create 894 dwelling units in the form of low, medium, and high density dwellings. In terms of low density, this is in the form of single detached dwellings, semi-detached, linked, and duplexes. The applicant is proposing approximately 141 dwelling units to be created in this format. Approximately 90 units would be created in the form of cluster townhouses or street townhouses, so this would be our medium density. And 154 dwelling units would be created in the form of apartments in low-rise or mid-rise buildings, so that's the 4 to 6 story buildings. And finally, 416 dwellings are proposed to be built within a multi-story mixed-use apartment tower. Additionally, land will be created and proposed for a public park along the western edge of this development and other open space options to facilitate some recreational uses and habitat compensation. And of course, the balance of the lands are proposed for public utilities and infrastructure, such as a pumping station, stormwater management facility, related infrastructure, as well as public roads and walkways. So the subdivision plan north of Medway Road specifically proposes a network of private roads with 2 connections to Medway. The internal roads would be the primary access for low and medium density residential development. Then this is to avoid direct connection to Medway Road. On the south side, there are 4 public roads that are proposed, and this would serve all of the low, medium, and higher density development, again, with 2 connections to Medway Road, and the 4 roads would direct traffic onto Medway directly. This subdivision plan as presented does not direct any traffic directly onto Richmond Street, nor does it connect to any adjacent lands to the south. All development is proposed on full municipal servicing as well. With regard to the official plan amendment application, this is applicable to the development of Block 23 as well as adjacent lands at 21525 Richmond Street. And the purpose and effect of this application is to create a special policy area that would permit a mixed-use high-rise development on these lands. The applicant specifically is proposing an 18-story tower with complementary commercial uses at grade. And finally, the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application would rezone the subject lands from existing use restricted to agriculture and urban residential first density to several new zones to facilitate the development that I just mentioned. So this includes rezoning the low density blocks to urban residential second density zone, rezoning the medium density blocks to an urban residential third density zone. And this is also applicable to the higher density block, and then rezoning all the other blocks for open space and infrastructure to the open space or parks and recreational use. Specific details of each requested zone are detailed and contained within the staff report as well as the applicant's planning justification report. So in support of the applications, the applicant also submitted several reports which have been appended to my staff report and are available on the public agenda or available through staff as well. Notice of this application has been circulated to agencies, area residents, as well as staff. At the time of writing the staff report, staff received correspondence from a few area residents. Overall, there is concern about the scale, height, compatibility, and placement of the high-density residential Block 23, especially relative to the existing low-density development to the south. The proposed development not being aligned with traditional development patterns within ARVA. There are also concerns about the impact of adding such a significant population on local infrastructure, including roads and traffic, schools, and servicing. There are additional concerns related to the development form along Richmond Street, as well as Medway and, with regard to noise attenuation and surface level parking. And of course, there are concerns related to servicing availability within ARVA and then the future solution that the municipality will need to consider and rely on. I will also acknowledge at this time that we did receive a number of letters and correspondence from members of the public over the last few days. Staff are actively reviewing these letters, but I believe that they have been shared with members of council as well. Again, the commenting period for agencies and for staff is still open, but we did receive a few comments that are contained in my staff report and related to the subdivision application itself, as well as some of the supporting studies, specifically from staff from the Director of Community Services, have identified the park and wanting to address the location of it to make it more accessible to members of the public who can access the park within the subdivision. Natural Resource Solutions, Inc., or NRSI, had reviewed the development assessment report on behalf of the municipality. They provided more detailed and technical comments related to natural heritage resources and requested additional information from the proponent. UTRCA is actively reviewing this application as well, though they provided additional and more technical comments related to slope stability, as well as a stormwater management plan proposed for this development. Thames Valley District School Board had also commented on the file, and they had commented that they feel confident that the existing school system can accommodate any future students, and any future development, especially within the North London area, can be accommodated in a school that they are proposing to build within the near future. Similarly, we also received correspondence from Canada Post addressing some of the community mailbox standards that the development would need to adhere to for any new development. And finally, staff received correspondence from the City of London with regard to sanitary servicing, which I believe has been shared with council as well. Planning staff have reviewed the proposal, and we have identified several aspects that need to be further studied and reviewed with proponents. So this includes refining the requested zones as well as the special policy area. We want to address the height and density requests on Block 23 and ensure that there's appropriate transition. Again, we want to review the interface between the proposed development as well as existing development, consider the design of parking and window streets, considering servicing options, for part in the entirety of the land, as well as phasing options for the subdivision. Reviewed the proposed park and open space for communal benefit. And of course, working to ensure that the development aligns with the future goals, policies, and regulations of the updated official plan and zoning bylaw, which are not in effect yet, but will be in place soon. So again, this report is for information purposes to solicit feedback from council and members of the public. We will take this into information into consideration and come back to council in the future with a recommendation and update with council. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that report. Does the applicant or an agent for the applicant wish to speak to the application at present? Do you want any? Yeah. Good evening. You'll have to push the middle and I'll make it go green when you've pushed it. And if you would give your name and information so that the clerk can add it to the record, that'd be great. Thank you.
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Scott Allen with MHBC Planning, and we are acting on behalf of the registered owner and the applicant. Members of our project team are here this evening to answer questions as they may arise from council as well. And at this time, I'd just like to provide a few brief comments to help supplement the presentation of Ms. Kerbel. Firstly, we'd like to advise council that we've reviewed the planning staff report and we agree with staff's preliminary findings regarding the applicable planning policy framework relating to this development. We also note that the staff report provides an effective overview of the proposed subdivision layout. Secondly, in relation to the draft plan of subdivision layout itself, which is included in Appendix 2 or Attachment 2 of the council agenda, several design components have been integrated into the proposed plan to promote housing choice, encourage compact urban form, and support efficient use of land and services. Design also includes park and open space components to facilitate passive and active recreation and to protect sensitive natural heritage features and functions. Thirdly, we'd like to advise council that we have reviewed the comments provided by public and review agencies as part of the agenda package. Many of the comments expressed by the public were also provided through input received at our neighborhood information meeting that was held in August of 2024. We certainly are looking forward to hearing more comments today, and I certainly expect that there'll be a lot moving forward. So at this point, we simply want to be able to monitor that discussion and help our project planning as it advances towards ultimate second council meeting. So at this point, yes, we're available to answer questions, but we understand the public would like to speak on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update. So we now will move on to registered attendees. The first person is Sue Deacon of the Association of Croydon Residents, who has registered to speak on behalf of 5 or more individuals who are also present here tonight, and she will be allotted 10 minutes to address council. Oh, no, you can sit and then the speaker will pick up the, yeah. If you prefer to stand, that's okay too. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. And is the button on the left, that would be your left. There we go, it's green and the floor is yours when you're ready.
Good. Okay. I have my timer on. Good evening, Mayor and members of Municipal Council and all attendees. My name is Sue Deacon. I live at 17 Croydon Drive with my husband, Jamie. I represent the Association of Croydon Drive. We moved here or there, Croydon Drive in 1997 with our daughters, Sarah and Laura, who were 3 years old and 6 months at the time. My father-in-law called one night to say he'd been out for a drive and there was this beautiful house for sale on this quaint little street in Arva and we should go look at it. We drove by that night, got a hold of our agent, and we went through the house the next day, fell in love with the community of Arva. We marveled at the half-acre lot and the privacy of the backyard. It had everything we needed, and we quickly realized how special Croydon Drive was. When we toured the home, there was no noise. It was just a quaint little area. All we heard were the cows mooing in the field. We moved in 3 months later, and I have to admit, I did cry the first night we could not get a pizza delivered to Arva. Still difficult some days. I might have been overwhelmed with the move. So 29 years later, we, like many of our friends, neighbors, and family, have experienced many of the special things about Arva. I just want to list those off. The historical Arva Flour Mill on the banks of Medway Creek. It's Canada's oldest continuously water-powered mill, and it's been running for 205 years. In July of 2007, White Stripes was hosted by the mill. And the news coverage was, the White Stripes may be the world's hottest band. They played a free show on the antiquated loading dock of a century-old flour mill in the teeny tiny community of Arva, north of London. Then we have the beautiful St. John the Divine Anglican Church. Historic parish was founded in 1822, and it was the first wooden frame church. It has been rebuilt, obviously. We have Medway Creek with many forms of wildlife and the haunted fort in the field. We have the looks and sounds of the surrounding fields being plowed, planted, and harvested. We have the Arva Connection. They no longer play for us, but it was our own little band featuring Arva residents Doug Weldon, Bill Matthews, and Billy Fellner. Weldon Park offers a wealth of activities: fishing in the mill ponds, tobogganing, skating on the ponds, school picnics, Arva Optimus, breakfast in the park, baseball games, and of course the fall cross-country meets that that are always run in the park. We have our own little Arva Rib Fest, way cheaper and better than the London Rib Fest. We have our country schools, Centennial Central, and then of course Medway, the only school I know of that has a tractor day, and the grade 12 prank that included bringing cows to the school. There are many communities that can brag about their special connection, and we are unique because of the rural flavor that is woven through all of our experiences of Arva. I asked for some submissions from neighbors to summarize what Croydon means to them. I would just like to read a few of those. Some were lengthy, so I have modified slightly. So from the first one, we've lived on Croydon for 3 years. We moved here to enjoy a quieter, safer, more family-friendly environment. We enjoy that our young children, 2 and 5, can explore and slowly enjoy some freedom while safely playing on the street and visiting neighboring yards. That won't be available in larger city neighborhoods or if a through street or path is put in. There's a sense of community stronger than we ever imagined due to the small, quaint environment provided by our small dead-end street. Finally, we love watching the wildlife out our back window and teaching the kids about it. This would be largely taken away if the development went forward. Second submission, we moved to Arva in the fall of 2009. We were immediately struck by the sense of community and family as we are welcomed to the neighborhood by Kim at number 3, who came over and introduced herself with a gift of a beautiful orchid. We have since continued that tradition when Krista and PJ moved in after Kim passed away. I like to think of our little street as a family. We look out for each other and each other's kids. I've lived many places and cities, and nowhere else have I felt this sense of community. Had Vic and I had children, this would have been an idyllic place to raise them, a safe neighborhood with very little traffic. I think what attracted us most to Arva was a small town village vibe and the larger lots. None of us existing Arva residents moved here to be in a high density area. Number 3, moving from London to Arva was appealing because it's a nice, quiet community away from the hustle and bustle of living in the city. It was the closest experience to feeling like you're living out of the country while being fairly close to London, providing desirable services, city sewer and water as opposed to septic and well. Number 4, Stan and I moved to Arva in 2016 after many years of enjoying rural life. Choosing Arva was our compromise, close enough to essential services like hospitals, but still offering the beauty and peace of a semi-rural community. One of the true pleasures of living has been the view from our backyard. The barn and the silo have become landmarks of home for us. The thought of losing that to an apartment building, along with the loss of privacy and security, is genuinely disheartening. Number 5, I'm not doing all 27, so you know. We have lived at number 15, tucked into the northwest corner of Croydon for the past 38 years. Throughout this time, right from our back deck, where we have a picture-perfect vantage point overlooking the Medway Creek floodplain lands, we capture through photography the wildlife and ever-changing tapestry of this environment. Bald eagles, coyotes, fox, deer, red-tailed hawks, and herons, as well as many seasonal birds. Even the rare bobolink inhabit this area. We photograph the inherent beauty of our surroundings through all 4 seasons from the place we call our home. The incompatibility and significant impact of this proposed development on 3 sides of our property will be intensely will be felt intensely by us. We hope that with some straightforward and thoughtful changes, this dramatic impact could be easily lessened to our property, which is in a location that we currently love. Another family moved, they've called this place home for 19 years, but was originally built by the parents. And when the parents retired, the family bought the home from the parents. And they just thought it would be a shame to not continue living in the home with so many memories for their family. At the time, their children were very young, and they were one of the few young families in the peaceful neighborhood. Over the years, this calm community has gradually grown, welcoming more families with children. It's been truly heartwarming to see it blossom into a friendly and safe place, now filled with joyful children and family life, all surrounded by the area's natural beauty and serene environment. And finally, a couple that moved to Arva, moved to Croydon Drive because they wanted somewhere close to the city, but a small town feel. They like the quiet nature of the area, the space to move freely without being limited by traffic, congestion, noise, etc. They rescue dogs, and living somewhere with less activity and quiet is very beneficial for the anxiety level of their pups. So you can see the common theme through all of those comments, how important Arva is to the residents of Croydon Drive. Croydon is a quiet dead-end street with 27 homes. The entire area of Arva, if we count the historical flour mill area, Sir James and Sir Robert, and the St. John's area, all of that area is 200 homes currently. And as you heard, the proposed development is for 894 homes on a land mass that is roughly half the size of Croydon Drive alone. The proposed bridle path simply doesn't fit with our community and what we moved to Arva for. We're not opposed to growth. When we moved here 29 years ago, there were no condos, no Picard's Peanuts, the Arva Clinic. There were no streetlights from Loblaws all the way up Richmond Street. Torrey Pines subdivision did not exist. There were no traffic lights along Fanshawe, from Fanshawe Park Road to Arva. There were no houses or high-rises between Sunningdale and on Sunningdale between Wonderland and Richmond. We used to stop at the field on Christmas Eve so our children could see the reindeer feeding and resting. We understand growth happens, and we appreciate the need for more housing. We are opposed to growth that doesn't capture the spirit and beauty of the community that we live in. We moved here for the beauty and uniqueness of Arva, and we want to preserve that. The proposed development is inconsistent with the existing residential character of Arva. It lacks consideration for the infrastructure needed to support such a development, is inconsistent with the official plan for the County of Middlesex, inconsistent with the official plan for Middlesex Centre, does not have regard for the urban design guidelines, and the proposed zoning bylaw changes fail to meet the foundational principles of balanced growth. Finally, the strategic plan for the municipality of Middlesex Centre must be considered. It's intended to be the roadmap for the future. Community citizens who were recognized by the Mayor and Council for our tremendous participation in the creation of the strategic plan must be listened to. The strategic plan establishes that residents will use it to see where we are headed and hold the municipality accountable to our objectives. So Mayor and members of Municipal Council, we would like to hold you accountable and ask that you consider all of our submissions and our personal pleas as to what the community of Arva, Croydon Drive means to each one of us. It is very important for all of us. And am I out of time? Can I read one small submission? Okay, this is from somebody who grew up on Croydon Drive. It's long, so I will paraphrase a bit. As I look back, I now realize just how formative my childhood in Arva was. At the time, I didn't fully appreciate the subtle but profound advantages of growing up in a small rural community. It's only with distance and perspective that I see how the quiet roads, familiar faces, and wide open spaces shaped me in ways that city life never could have. Arva was and is more than a dot on the map. It's a true community in every sense of the word. What amazes me is that Arva hasn't lost any of that. While the outside world is growing noisier, busier, and more disconnected, Arva has held on to what matters. People still take the time to stop and talk. Kids still roam with a sense of freedom and curiosity. There's something powerful about a place that doesn't rush to change. Arva is proof that small communities can hold their own, not by growing bigger, but by staying true to themselves. I'm proud to say I grew up in Arva, and even proud to say that when I visit, it still feels like home because the spirit of this place has never changed. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kirsten Parker of the Association of Residents of Weldon Ave and Arva Street, and she's registered to speak on behalf of 5 or more individuals also present here tonight and will be allotted 10 minutes to do her presentation to council. So, left. Middle. Oh, isn't she? Is it the middle there too? Oh, I thought they were pushing this one. Oh, okay. It's green. The floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor DeWitt, Deputy Mayor Brennan, members of council, planning services team, and municipal clerks, as well as our community residents here today and tuning in online. I'm speaking on behalf of the Association of Residents of Weldon Avenue and Arva Street, and I thank you for the opportunity to participate in this pivotal moment for our community and to have our concerns entered into the public record. By way of background, my name is Kirsten Pronk. I believe my email said Parker, but my married name is Pronk. I live on Weldon Ave with my husband, our 2 children, and another little one on the way. Surprise. That's maybe why I'm kind of crying. Hormones, everyone, hormones. My connection to Arva began when I was just 6 years old, the same age as my son is now. I vividly remember my first cross-country meet at Weldon Park. And since we are on public record, I did win that race. When we took the bus from London, it felt like a grand adventure. Even then, I was captivated by Arva's charm and told my parents we had to move here. At 6, my request was understandably not taken seriously, but the dream stayed with me. Fast forward 24 years, my husband and I found ourselves wanting to leave Toronto behind. We wanted to leave the high-rise buildings, the traffic, the congestion, the lights, and the noise. Although we're both originally from London, I convinced him that Arva was where we should look for our forever home. In the fall of 2018, we got our keys to our home in Arva. My now 30-year dream finally came true. It was everything we wanted and dreamed of, close enough to our parents, now grandparents, but with its own distinct identity and small town spirit. We could see the stars at night. You can't do that in Toronto. This was the place we wanted to raise our children, gather with family, welcome friends and neighbors as part of our extended family. Arva was home. Fast forward a few more years. With a growing family and needing a little more space, we faced a decision to either move back into London, across into other Middlesex Centre communities, or remain in the quaint village that we love dearly and called home. In 2021, with much excitement, it was an easy decision. We decided to renovate our 1950s Arva family home. Our top priority was to preserve the character of our home, respect our neighbors, and ensure that the end product blended seamlessly with the community and honored Arva's rich heritage. We were excited to grow with the community, having full confidence that eventual development would respect Arva's unique rural character and remain compatible with the existing landscape. Requirements under the municipality's official plan amendment, urban design guidelines, and strategic plan would be taken into consideration. Together with our experienced architect, project manager, and designer, we felt assured by the guiding documents' clear text that Arva was not a growth community and that any future development would be aligned with the plans. Our renovations were completed in 2022, and our home has become everything we hoped: a safe place for our children, a gathering spot for family, and a welcoming venue for friends and neighbors to make memories. Our house was historically known as the White House at the end of the court, and we honored this legacy. So much so that the original owners have even stopped by to talk about the house, to share some fun history, and acknowledge their appreciation that the renovation maintained its character, including keeping the original yellow brick chimney. I have never been naive about change. Communities do adapt, but the proposed changes before us are not simply an adaptation. They fundamentally alter the very character that makes Arva such a desirable and special place to live. As noted previously, I'm speaking on behalf of the residents of Weldon Ave and Arva Street. While we support residential development on the designated land in Arva, we are deeply concerned about the scale and impact of the proposed development. The current Bridle Path proposal, featuring an 18-story high-rise with 416 units, is unprecedented in scale and density for our community. It is incompatible with Arva's designation as a community settlement area and threatens our rural character. We believe Middlesex Center's housing goals can be achieved while maintaining compliance with existing policies and preserving the expectations set by council and residents. We look forward to collaborating with municipal staff, council, and if requested, the developer to create a balanced and compatible development plan. Arva is a small, rural, and historic community known for its low-density residential areas, historic buildings, and strong agricultural tradition. Our close-knit spirit and scenic qualities make Arva a cherished destination and a welcoming entryway into Middlesex Centre. We take pride in our rural roots, and we are not a northern outpost of London. It is a transcendent village that distinguishes itself from the hustle and bustle of the big city. We focus on traditions, on community, on character. Trends can come and go, but our values persist. We are proud of our history and believe thoughtful, policy-consistent development can preserve what makes Arva special. To that end, Middlesex Centre website notice for this says, the intent of this project is to establish a land use pattern that is compact in design, promotes housing choice and housing supply, and is connected with the surrounding community. We agree completely and are eager to see each of these 3 goals come to fruition. With that said, as evidenced by the impressive community unity on display here tonight, and the coordination between the various Arva subdivisions in advance of this meeting, the carefully crafted written submissions, often guided by engaged third-party consultants and planning professionals, and the inspired number of residents present in person, the connected with the surrounding community piece is not a throwaway item. It's vital. It's who we are, and we are respectfully submitting that the current proposal, especially Block 23, featuring a high-rise building and requiring a special policy area designation just to be zoned, falls well short of establishing any remote measure of connectivity with our proud community. When looking at the specific policy grounds, we engaged a third-party planning consultant to review the proposal. Their analysis, combined with our community's perspective, highlights several inconsistencies with governing policies. The Middlesex Centre official plan and associated urban design guidelines prioritize development that respects the scale and form of existing communities. A high-rise or mid-rise building in a rural community settlement contradicts these principles and would set a troubling precedent for future development. The county and the municipal official plan provide that requisite guidance on development proposals in Arva. Arva is a community settlement area. Both the official plans express in no uncertain terms that community settlement areas are intended to serve the surrounding agricultural areas, provide an alternative to city and urban settlement area living, and accommodate limited growth with lower concentration and intensity compared to urban settlement areas. The provincial policy statement emphasizes context-sensitive development and the long-term viability of rural areas. This proposal fails to address locally appropriate rural characteristics, scales, and service levels. The County of Middlesex official plan designates Arva as a community area intended for limited growth and lower intensity development. The proposal's high-rise, high-density approach is incompatible with this designation. The recent growth management study provided by Watson and Associates economists in 2022, supporting amendment number 59 to the official plan, explicitly redirects growth allocation away from Arva and toward Delaware, Ilderton, and Kamoka-Kilworth, citing infrastructure limitations and community feedback, further signaling that intensification in Arva is not supported by current planning policy. All forecasts, including the latest one bringing us to the year 2046, provided for modest population growth in Arva from roughly 500 to 1,000 residents. That equates to 500 residents, 3% of homes and population growth in the municipality, and roughly 190 new homes over the 30-year forecast. Of the 190 new homes over the next 30 years, 120, or 63%, are intended to be low density, while only 20 homes, or 10%, are forecasted to be high density. By contrast, Delaware, Ilderton, and Kamoka-Kilworth are all forecasted to experience intense significant intensification and growth. These forecasts clearly provide residents of Arva with expectations that mid-rise and high-rise buildings are not contemplated for this community settlement area over the next 30 years. As a community settlement area, Arva is intended to accommodate limited growth and lower intensity development than its urban settlement area counterparts. 894 residential units in the bridle path, including 416 units in a high-rise tower, is not consistent with the intended scale and intensity. Urban style intensification is not appropriate in this rural village context, as the spirit of the guidelines aim to preserve Arva's rural charm and scale. The Planning Justification Report notes the role that Middlesex Centre could play to address Ontario's housing crisis, and we agree. However, the official plan, Amendment number 59, directs growth away from Arva. All such goals must be balanced with community compatibility, expectations, and infrastructure readiness, and Arva has been expressly excluded from such growth targets. The Municipality of Middlesex Centre official plan and strategic plan, developed collaboratively with the community, set clear expectations for balanced growth. The proposal's projected population increase and building height far exceed these expectations. As a resident within Middlesex Centre, it is very reassuring to have a strategic plan that serves as the roadmap for our community's future. The strategic plan even offers a wise quote coined by the famous player Yogi Berra: "If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else." Fortunately, we know where we're going. It's clearly laid out in the governing documents. It's been workshopped through countless hours across multiple years with engagement from community residents and stakeholders. The strategic plan explicitly asks residents to hold the municipality accountable to our objectives. That is this time. We have development proposals before us that appear to offer a detour from our collective road with a clear windshield. We can even have our hair blowing in the wind in a convertible, and we are guided by your strategic plan. We should not be getting lost. One of the strategic plan's 5 priorities is balanced growth, and the strategic
If you
plan—
could wind it up, please.
Pardon me?
If you could wind up, please.
Sure.
Ah. Okay, glad I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The community residents moved to Arva from London because it's distinctively not London. This proposal in terms of scale and mass unequivocally represent a radical intensification, not a traditional or incremental expansion, and contradicts the stated intent of the municipality to preserve rural character of its community settlement areas. Admittedly, the proposal before us is a bit shocking. However, we remain confident that the applicant and its planner will heed this vital community commentary, listen to the voices as inspiration, and come up with a plan that acknowledges the aforementioned policy considerations and a revised community concept together with the municipal planning staff. We thank you for your time and consideration. We are grateful for your service and stewardship for our community. We welcome feedback and look forward to participating in upcoming public meetings to discuss these issues further.
Thank you. The next speaker up is going to be Michelle Dornbush. She is registered to offer comments on the application and will be allotted 5 minutes to address council. Michelle. Say it again. Okay, so Michelle Dornbush. And your time is 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Michelle Dornbush. I'm with Landrise Development Planning. I'm here on behalf of my clients, Doug and Sharon Coleman. They've lived at 16 Croydon Drive for over 35 years. So they do have a number of concerns that you've already heard from the other members of the public tonight. I submitted my letter on October the 7th last week. That is included in your agenda package before you on pages 1217 to 1219. My clients have always recognized that development would eventually occur on the vacant land surrounding their property. This is not a matter of not in my backyard. It is not a matter of trying to prevent any form of development occurring on the lands. But there are significant concerns with the development proposal that has been brought and is before you tonight by York Developments in their applications. I've summarized them into essentially 5 main topics, and they are more pointed topics than the broader list that, again, that you've heard tonight. So I will go through those as quickly as possible. Concern number 1, blocks 24 and 25. Those are directly adjacent to the existing homes at the end of Croydon Drive. Those were originally proposed as multi-family units. They have been reduced in terms of the scale of development, but they are still proposing a urban residential 2 zone that would allow for semi-detached and duplex dwellings. It would be more appropriate to apply an urban residential 1 zone so that it is strictly single detached dwellings that are permitted directly adjacent to those existing dwellings. Again, concern number 2 is with regards to block 16 and part of block 24. Those are the blocks that back onto the Medway Creek corridor, which is, as you know, an environmentally sensitive area. Those lots are also proposed for an urban residential 2 zone. Again, these lots should be restricted to an urban residential 1 zone that would allow for single-family homes and directing higher densities away from the creek corridor. Concern number 3 is with regards to the inconsistency of the applications with the Middlesex County official plan. ARVA is a community area, not an urban area. The official plan is clear. Community areas are meant to provide an alternative to urban living, and they are required to protect the character of the existing communities. The largest buildings permitted in residential areas in the county are 8 stories and 150 units per hectare. These are in urban areas only, the primary focus for development in the county. The proposed 18-story building exceeds those limits and represents an urban form that is inappropriate for ARVA. Development in this area should be less than what you would find in an urban area. This isn't, again, it's not consistent with the official plan and what the long-term intent is for the entire area. Concern number 4 is the inconsistency of the proposed applications with the Middlesex Centre official plan. Like the county official plan, a community settlement area is to have a lower concentration and intensity than urban settlement areas. The bridle path proposal includes 894 total units, far exceeding what is anticipated in the municipality's housing projections over the next 30 years. High-rise apartments are not contemplated anywhere in the Middlesex Centre official plan. The proposed density for block 23 at 165 units per hectare is completely out of character with the surrounding densities that exist in the Croydon Drive and the broader ARVA community of 20 units per hectare. These are not consistent in compatibility permissions and is not what is contemplated by the official plan. And lastly, concern number 5, the Middlesex Centre official plan sets out very specific criteria in determining whether an official plan amendment is appropriate. Going through that criteria, these applications are not consistent with those policies set out in Section 10 of the official plan. The application does not conform to the municipality's long-term vision as the densities are far too intense and the building height is out of character. There is no demonstrated need for the height or density of block 23. As you've heard earlier, the densities and the projections for housing within this area is well below what is contemplated by the single block alone of 416 units. The proposal conflicts with the county official plan as the intensity of development is inappropriate for a community area. There are upgrades required to existing municipal sanitary services that will be required but are yet to be fully determined. So this application is also premature prior to determining how these lands are going to be serviced before we determine what is actually going to go on them. The 18-story apartment will have a detrimental effect on the established character of ARVA. For these reasons, we request that Council take additional consideration when reviewing these applications, and staff take a very strong, close look at the applicable official plan policies of the county and of the municipality. It's recognized that
You're a minute over if you'd like to wrap up, please.
Sorry. The scale, just wrapping up, the scale, density, and intensity of the proposal does not reflect the intent or purpose of either the county or municipal official plan. Arva is a community area and it deserves development that complements its existing character, scale, and infrastructure capacity. Thank you very much.
Okay, there are no people online wishing to speak. Is there anyone in the room who has not registered? That is, if you're a public attendee, you have an opportunity to speak as well if you'd like. So come forward. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. And I'll just say that if you're coming up to speak, yeah, please state your name and address. And I'll keep you to 5 minutes, okay? Please state new things that we haven't heard. Just say, I agree with something I've heard, or if you disagree, say, I don't like that, and go ahead. But we don't want to hear, we want to hear new things from you, okay?
Fair enough.
Okay.
My name is Dr. Dwight Eckmeyer. I live at 28 Sir Robert Place. And most of the things that have been spoken, I agree with. As you say, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to all the residents and everybody to come out and say hello and represent our concerns for this particular proposition. One of the things I tried to go through the website and read all the documents, and they are voluminous. One of the things that I noticed was there was a study about traffic, and it concluded immediately that there are no traffic concerns in Arva. And then they moved on to talk about other things. The study was done in July when the schools are closed. I'm a little concerned about that. Maybe a new study could be implemented. Also, things like infrastructure, you know, with sanitary waste, things like that. And the letter that's on the website from the City of London indicating that they have already refused any increase in sanitary flow from Arva. And we have exceeded 2 days in 2025 and 2 days in 2024, the sanitary limits already. And they're essentially saying, we're not allowing any more, and you guys are already exceeding what you've proposed. And there was an article in the London Free Press indicating that one of the councillors said that, listen, if Arva wants to have more sanitation, then we need to talk about annexation. And I'm here to represent Sir Robert and the whole area, saying that we do not want to annex with London. We want to remain Arva. Concerns, my little ones are 8 and 6 years old. They go to Centennial Public School. They have 2 or 3 portable classrooms already. They are at maximum capacity. They're suggesting another 300 to 400 students. Medway High School. We have 2 of my stepdaughters are at Medway, and they are also at maximum capacity. Is York proposing to build 2 schools for us as well? I think not. These considerations need to be taken seriously, considering, and then for the traffic. I mean, traffic in Arva at peak times is very, very nasty. It might take me 3 cycles of the lights to get through coming off Medway when I'm driving home from work. Traffic is a serious consideration, and they're talking about, you know, they say, oh, we're not going to put any traffic onto Richmond Street. Well, congratulations, you're putting it onto Medway that's only 2 lanes, and it's going to be a massive increase in traffic. They talk about how it's okay because if they need to take public transit, there's a quick walk to a public bus station at Sunningdale and Richmond, 1.4 kilometers away. I want to see who's going to make that walk in the winter, no sidewalks, up Richmond. That's not going to be a pleasant walk. That's not accessible. That's not okay. And this is also not in the character of Arva. We want to be a small community where our kids can run to the next yard, play with the other children, and enjoy small town agricultural amenities like Tractor Day. I don't participate personally, but I hear that it's a lot of fun for the students. So essentially, I think that we need to strongly consider if this is an appropriate proposal. I thank you for your time and have a good evening.
I was gonna say, don't make us get annexed and we don't, didn't have 1.5 parking units for this 800 or 16-story building.
Appreciate it. Is there someone else? Yeah. If you just want to maybe queue up, then we can keep this moving too. You get same rules, keep it new and fresh and
It's short and sweet.
yeah.
Do I have to press anything?
Yeah, no, you're all set
I'm
to go.
good.
It's green.
My
Go
name
ahead.
is Dr. Amanda Reevely. I live and work in Arva. This is obviously a very emotional, passionate topic for all of us. But to keep it very short and sweet, the plans provided do not align with the province's best planning guidelines, which focuses on intensification of residential areas around locations that are already well serviced by transit, by sanitation. We are putting the cart before the horse. We do not have the amenities to support such growth. Again, I agree with all the comments that the planning is not compatible with the current housing in Arva. And given the amount of residential, the number of people coming into Arva based on the plans, it is very little, there's very little commercial planned in these buildings. So it's not allowing for a live work community. I take great pride in the fact that I work in the community where I live. I am minimizing my carbon footprint. We need to be making our communities better. And this is just creating more commuters. This is a bedroom community where all these people living in the new development are basically going to have to commute into London. So again, I agree that there are definitely concerns with traffic. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Dave Kloppenberg. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but given how courageous Kirsten was in the presentation that she made, and I live in Arv Street. We've been there for 28 years. I work in agriculture, so I understand the need to preserve farmland. We can't develop exactly like we used to, but when I read the proposal, and I've got a little more time because I'm recently retired, and I think it was well over 1,000 pages of documents. I spent a good part of a day wading through the documents, trying to understand the proposal. And a few things jumped to me was, first of all, parkland. I think it was terribly minimal. It was about 2% of the area is designated parkland. And then I think if you look at the provincial planning policy, they'll say 5%. So really poor. And I would say just when I look at the development and I think about Arva, it's uninspired. It is very uninspired. It just feels like the developer is going to maximize the opportunity on this land. And they don't live there. You know, I'm speaking to you as council, and you would live in Middlesex Center. And it just feels wrong for many reasons, which have been very well expressed, and a lot of very good technical arguments around planning. So I think that's really kind of what I wanted to say. I've got other thoughts, but I think we'll have opportunities to speak with, you know, the planning staff to make sure that, you know, our views are heard. And in particular, what really resonated with me when, you know, our group was pulling together our document, our presentation, was the strategic plan. And it talks about, you know, Kirsten talked about, you know, holding council accountable. And I think as residents now, we are being accountable for what's happening in our own backyard. So, you know, we want to do it right. And actually, there was one other thought. And we are probably the biggest users of Weldon Park. And I know that because I walk in that park every day. And it's incredible how many folks I speak with who don't know that Arva is not part of London. And my knowledge of the annexation process that took place with London, I don't know, 30, 35 years ago, they have a tremendous amount of land within the boundary of London to develop appropriately for developers like York. Arva is not London. And I think that needs to be very firmly stated. So that's what I want to say. And I thank you to you, and I thank you to all the other presenters from Arva this evening.
My name is Arthur Mustard Thompson. I live actually just south of Arva, in London, in an area once known as London Township that was annexed by London as it grew larger. I'd like to preface this by stating that I'm not against development on this site. It is a site that makes sense for development. The question is what form that development will take. My primary concern is that this application is not in line with Middlesex County's official plan policy 2.3.7.3. The most salient section of this policy states that County Council shall encourage development that has, quote, physical compatibility with the existing built form. To me, it is clear that this development proposal in its current form is antithetical to the existing usage in the village of Arva. Obviously, the most contentious issue here is the 18-story high-rise. This is, again, obviously not, is not compatible with existing forms in Arva. But I believe that really this high-rise, the developer most likely intends to build a tower of 10 to 12 stories, but we'll go through the motions of negotiating down just to appear perhaps more generous. I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to speculate, but my belief is that an 18-story tower is not the true intention or the final plan in this proposal. I also believe that this 18-story tower serves to distract from a more pressing issue, which is the 45-foot lot, what I've described as zero lot line tract housing in this development. The majority of houses in Arva have very large lots, some over an acre, and nowhere is the dichotomy between these two housing forms more obvious than where Street B in this proposal backs onto Croydon Drive. And I'm not exaggerating, you could probably fit 3 of the Bridle Path lots into one St. John's Estate lots or Croydon Drive lots. It's yeah, maybe more. It's just, again, really not compatible or in form with existing development. Then to move on just to some minor design details. I would like to see some of the lots currently where houses are facing inwards in this plan to have the facades of those houses face onto Richmond Street, just to encourage an active kind of walkable streetscape and not have what we see in London often, which is where the rear of houses face onto these major arterial roads with noise attenuation walls, and it creates not an environment that's conducive to community. One last thing is the amount of parking. I think the level it needs to be put underground or reduced. It really is an eyesore, the amount of surface parking in this plan. I would like to thank York, though, for, I think, taking into consideration some of my previous submissions and working with the comments submitted here. And that concludes my submission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Should we do a last call? Okay, last call. Any thoughts from anyone else? Okay. I think that's it for members from the comments from the public. I will look to council then. Are there questions from council? To the developer, to the pub? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Shipley.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. To Rob, one of the speakers said about our overflow from our sewage to London, that we're maxed out. Can you just comment on that, please?
Yeah, so our through the mayor to Councillor Shipley. So you're referring to our outflow from our pump station into the gravity system that goes into the city of London. So yeah, we had looked previously at, we had about 7 years of data that was very consistent, and we had about a 20% excess capacity left in the system. Looking at the peak wet weather flows over the 2-month rolling average, which is what the terms of the agreement with the City of London is. More recently, our flows have elevated for some unknown reason. So we are starting an investigation into that to try to find why that is. But we have, in 2025, we have exceeded the allotted capacity discharging into the City of London. So yeah, so we are looking into that.
So I guess my concern is this like, are we, as someone said, putting the horse or the cart before the horse? Like, if we can't put any more capacity. More capacity into London, and they've made it quite clear they're not going to accept any more capacity. Are we getting ahead of the game? Because my concern here is the people in St. John's Estates, they're on septic. If we start having problems with septic, we can't even accommodate them into the sewer system at this point. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Shipley. So yeah, that's correct. Based on our more recent flows from 2025, we would not be able to accommodate that. I do hope that through the investigation that we can find the source of the additional infiltration and then kind of get us back to where we were previously. That 20% capacity that we had identified previously would be enough to cover the 40 or so lots in that St. John's area. Or sorry, that's in the Sir Robert Place area. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Through your Madam Mayor, I had several concerns that Councillor Shipley has. I don't see any point in changing zoning unless there's no sewage outlet. So, and I did read the 1,000 pages, and the functional stormwater report is not there. When you click on it, I get transportation. So that's missing.
Wow.
And was that something else? Tractor day. I'm sorry to inform you, Medway High School is not the only high school with a tractor. Our tractors have visited Park Hill High School several times. Okay, I'd put that one in there. So
Other questions from council? Nobody at this point? Okay. Well, in that case, the motion at this point is in your package, and it is that report PLA 61/2025 with regard to the plan of subdivision application, file number, well, all the file numbers are there for you, but it also includes the official plan amendment application as well as the zoning bylaw amendment application filed by MHBC Planning Limited on behalf of Bridle Path South Arva Inc. and Bridle Path North Arva Inc. For the plan, for the lands known as Plan 1028, Part Lot 5, Parts 2 to 4, Concession 7, Part Lot 17, Part 1, and 2152 Richmond Street, all located in the Middlesex Municipality Middlesex Center, and this is to be received for information. If I could have a mover, please, and a seconder. Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan, all in favor of that? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item up is Harris Road, or should we just break to? If people want to go home now, we should probably break for a minute. We still have more planning files to go through tonight. You're welcome to stay, but we'll just take a quick moment. Next, we're moving to item 7.2, which is the Harris Road application file. Marion again is going to present that report, and we'll let you take the floor now, Marion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, the purpose of this report is to provide council with a recommendation regarding the rezoning request for the property at 88 Harris Road. The purpose and effect of this application is to rezone the lands from the current community residential first density zone to a new site-specific community residential first density exception 6 zone to address the exterior side yard setback and adjust the limits of the zone boundary. Specifically, the applicant has requested to reduce the exterior side yard setback from 5 meters to 1.65 meters and increase the area zoned for the development by increasing the depth from 45 meters to 60 meters. So as council might recall, earlier this year, we did review a consent and zoning application. And at that time, the land was split zoned to permit a small portion of development for one single family home while maintaining the rest of the property for future development when municipal services come available. As such, the land was rezoned to an existing use zone as well as a community residential first density zone based on a lot or a lotting plan that was provided by the landowner at the time. And at that time, it measured out to 45 meters in depth with a 34.8 meter width. Because of this, there is a really unique characteristic with that split zone. We consider and interpret the zone boundaries to be the property lines as the way that we review and adhere to other provisions in the zoning bylaws, such as setbacks and lot coverage. So because of this, the applicant is requesting these specific requirements, even though they are not necessarily close to the property lines of the legal property itself. So notice of this application was circulated to agencies, stakeholders, and neighboring properties. At the time of writing the staff report, we did not receive any comments from the public, nor did we receive any comments from municipal staff. Planning staff did review this proposal in consideration of all policies, including the special policy area number 3, which is applicable to Delaware. The rezoning application, we find that will continue to support limited development at this time while still preserving lands for future development. The increase in depth by 15 meters will still accommodate a large setback for future right-of-way if we do plan or consider that in the future, and still provide sufficient space to the rear of the dwelling for their existing septic system. With this being said, staff note that this increase in the depth of the CR1 zone would also result in the reduction of a future lot, as council had saw earlier this year. Additionally, we did look at the reduction in the side yard setback and find it appropriate for the site, as we do not anticipate the reduction would result in negative impacts on the adjacent properties. So as a result, staff are supportive of this proposal as presented, and we also recommend that a holding symbol or the H4 be applied to the area zoned community residential first density exception 6. And this is just to ensure that there's consistency across this entire developed area. And this holding zone would just require the applicant enter into a development agreement with the municipality, and this was considered previously with the last rezoning application. So again, we do support this application and recommend that it is approved.
Okay, thank you for that report. I don't see anyone here who might want to speak to the application, so unless I see someone jump up, we're going to move on to anyone online? No. No one online? I'm just going to go to you, Council. Does anyone? Yes, I'll start with you, Councillor Burrs.
Okay. Through you, your worship, to Marion, just for clarification, this came before us before. I see, was it a total of 5 lots at one time? Yeah, okay. So lot 3 and 2, and then as we go in, that's going to be a driveway there, and then there's a private drive or road. So they're taking up the back 3 lots, correct? And I don't see anything wrong with it, but no further development until services are available in Delaware, correct, after this?
Yes, that is correct.
Is there anyone else? Okay, in that case, there is a motion before us that the zoning bylaw amendment for the application ZBA 11/2025 filed by Eric Thompson to rezone the subject land from existing use exception EU5 zone and community residential first density CR1 zone to the community residential density exception 6, which is CR1-6 zone for the land described as Plan 33R 22-156 Part 3, known as 88 Harris Road, Municipality of Middlesex Center, formerly in the Township of Delaware, be approved. Mover, please, Councillor Burrs, and Councillor Cates. Oopsie. Oh, there's more. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. There is a holding symbol to be applied here. Number H4, it'll be applied to the land zoned community residential first density. Exception 6, to require a development agreement be entered into with the corporation of the affected lands, and that be approved. So I had Councillor Burrs and Councillor Cates, thank you. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. And the last item is on Sinclair. And again, it's Marianne Cabral's file. If you would like to present that, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with recommendation for the property at 10132 Sinclair Drive. The applicant requests to rezone their property to fulfill a condition of consent for file B1/2024. And this is to rezone the severed parcel to a surplus residence zone and the retained farm parcel to an agricultural no residence zone. So planning staff did review all relevant policies and are satisfied that the application is consistent with the PPS, county, and local official plans. As a result, we do recommend approval of the application and that a bylaw be passed once a reference plan has been deposited.
Okay, that was pretty straightforward, though. I'll look for questions if there are any. Okay, if I could have a mover, please. Okay, oh, did you have a question, Councillor Arts? This is the
7.3.
yeah. This is the tiny little house on Sinclair.
It's just that my location map, so you.
Oh. Mine showed it properly. It's on Sinclair Drive on the north side. There's a tiny little house and another one beside it.
I know where it is, I'm just making
Yep.
sure staff has the right picture, because mine's wrong.
Yeah, mine's wrong too.
Oh, okay.
I think it's within describe.
It was right yesterday.
Yeah.
It was okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
Yeah.
it's in describe.
Because I didn't open it today, so I don't know what happened.
Something
Yeah.
like the last file did that too. It brought up.
It was okay on the
drawings from
weekend?
Somebody else's and was okay on the weekend.
Okay,
Had the late night gremlins coming here.
okay.
So-
Okay, so everyone knows where we are and
The
yeah.
correct map is available on the public's, on the website. Okay, no, it's right there too.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have it. So I don't know.
Okay.
I knew it was the right one because I go by it all the time. Okay, so I have Councillor Shipley and Councillor Arts. Thank you. I'll call the vote. And that is carried. Thank you, Council. And what else do we have? We're done with the those pieces. We need a motion that the public meetings adjourn at 7:43 PM and Council resumes the regular meeting. I have Councillor Coles and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Thank you. All right. And I'll call the vote. All in favor of that? And that's carried. So the first order of business here is that the minutes of the 1st of October meeting, we have a motion to adopt those as printed. Mover, please, and a seconder, Councillor Cates and Councillor Coles. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. And then we have 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone wishes to speak to or pull out for a comment? No?
In the, sorry, hold on.
Consent. So we have the where drain, budget to actual, and the Economic Development Committee meeting. No? Okay. In that case, if there would be a mover, please, and a seconder that the consent agenda items as listed on the agenda be adopted. I had Councillor Burrs and Councillor Cates. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, there's nothing else to consider. There are no notices of motion. Is there anything in correspondence that council wants to bring forward? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Cates.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I just was wondering if we wanted to be pulling out the City of Kitchener resolution for endorsing the postage. Mhm.
The postage.
Is your wish?
Well, I
Well, postage
didn't know.
doesn't say
I
which
guess we'll see what everybody else's wish is. I just made note of that about the postage costs and paper billing.
What is this in a nutshell? I read it, but is it eliminating postal delivery of bills? Is that what you're saying? Is that what they're saying?
They're saying, yes.
I'm kind of burnt out. We had a few pages to read.
Request the province of Ontario to amend the municipal act to permit municipalities the ability to grandfather out paper billing as the default option. Nobody cares? Okay, I'll stop now. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the motion before us is that the correspondence items number 13.1 through 13B8 be received as information. I have Councillor Coles and I have Councillor Arts. Thank you. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Deputy, would you like to give us an update, please?
Municipal service manager agreement with the City of London, and that's where the city looks after cost appropriation of agreements for childcare, homelessness prevention, housing services, and Ontario Works. The city looks after that, and they appropriate so much money to the county for our needs. A lot of comments about the forestry in the county. The county has a lot of forest land. The county forests produce enough oxygen through their forest to supply 77,000 people. That's how much the forest that the county has produces. It takes 5 hectares of trees for each new house to offset the carbon imprint of one house. So they're working with the province on this sort of thing, and continue to monitor. There's a lot of trails throughout the county forest, and they're spread across the county. So anybody that's into walking trails are available at the county forest. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. Is there any other business that council wants to bring forward? Go ahead, Councillor Burrs.
I think it goes here. I read that AMO has a resolution out supporting speed cameras. So I was and some municipalities don't want to support it based on the criteria in there, but I would, if we have support for it, I'd ask that our clerk research that and pull it out and present it at a future council, and then we can decide do we want to support it or not. In case anybody doesn't know, Doug Ford's against. He might be cutting down those cameras in Toronto. No, it's just a joke. But if she could pull that and present it to council in the future, and I think everybody's getting together to try to object to what the province is doing on this. What's that?
CMP's a good
Okay. Okay. Anything else from anyone else? You do need a motion for that, or is it a request? No?
Take it as an.
Okay. All right. Okay, thanks. If there's nothing else, no other business, then we have bylaws. The motion before us is that bylaws 2025, number 80 through number 81 be adopted as printed. I have Councillor Cates and Councillor Burrs. Thank you. All in favor? And we have a motion that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns October 15th, the meeting at 7:49. Councillor Coles, thank you, and Councillor Arts, thank you. All in favor?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Adjourned. We stand adjourned until next time.